Narrative writing. What is a narrative paragraph? A narrative paragraph or narrative writing. It tells a story about the writer. It can be an event or experience. For example, a trip or a vacation the writer took, a holiday celebration, a fun weekend, or any other memorable experience. A narrative paragraph needs to include the following elements. You need to include the setting, the time and place of the experience or story. Also, the characters, the people involved in the story, the events in the order that they happened, a problem and a solution. This is optional, but it always makes for a good narrative. Make sure to use personal pronouns because you're telling about your own experience. So you use I, me, my, we. It's always important to include transitional words. And make sure that your verbs are written in the simple past. Like every good paragraph, a narrative paragraph must always begin with a topic sentence. The topic sentence in a narrative paragraph introduces the event. It tells the setting, the time and place, and it introduces the character or the people in the story. For example, last year, my family and I had a birthday party in the park. After the topic sentence, you need to include supporting details. Supporting details tell the events and details of the story. These details need to be sequenced in the order they happened. For example, going back to the topic of the birthday party in the park, your first event might be, my parents arrived at the park with the food. Make sure to include the detail, then we set out the plates, food, and decorations on tables. Other supporting details you might want to include are a problem and a solution. Adding a problem or conflict to a narrative paragraph can make your paragraph much more interesting. If you add a problem or conflict, you also need to provide the solution or the fix. Let's look at the example for your birthday party. Next, it got really windy and the wind blew all the plates and napkins away. So my parents and cousin moved all the party materials into a nearby community center and we had the party there. Remember, if the story you're telling does not have a problem, just continue telling the events in the story. No need to worry about adding a problem. Your narrative paragraph will always end with a conclusion. Your conclusion sentence tells the ending of the story. It can tell how you felt or what you learned at the end. For example, finally we cleaned up before going home, and I felt very thankful for having such a helpful family with me that day. It's always important to remember to include transitions in your narrative writing. Transitions are time order words. They help move from one event to the other. They help the reader understand what you are writing. Examples of time order words are first, then, next, after that, later, finally. Now, let's look at an example narrative paragraph. As we read this paragraph, let's talk about the different elements that the paragraph has. Last year, my family and I had a birthday party in the park. This is the topic sentence. First, my parents and I arrived at the park with the food. This is the first event. Then we set out the plates, food, and decorations on tables. This is a detail for that first event. Next, it got really windy and the wind blew all the plates and napkins away. This is the problem. So my parents and cousins moved all the party materials into a nearby community center and we had the party there. This sentence is the solution, describes the fix for the problem. Finally, we cleaned up before going home and I felt very thankful for having such a helpful family with me that day. The paragraph ends with the concluding sentence. Let's make sure that this paragraph included some transitions. I see that we have first, then, next, so, and finally. Transitions are very important. Now, as we continue our lesson, you are going to have an opportunity to write your own narrative paragraph. Make sure that you have these notes down in your interactive notebook on page 10 so you can refer to them as you're writing your own paragraph.